Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
I am here. I am back.
She keeps going missing. Everybody's like, where's she at?
I keep going missing, but I go missing with my family.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, my parents. I'm with my parents.
Yeah, so she was out most of the day yesterday, so I had to man the fort. And today's video should be a little more interesting, hopefully.
Oh, because I'm here?
Yeah.
It's a little more colorful anyway.
Yeah, it is a little more colorful.
I bring the color.
So we're going to talk about Star Wars and more lies perpetuated by the media. We have multiple lies here. We have the lie that Luke Skywalker was originally supposed to die in Episode VIII, according to George Lucas. That is proven false. So we've got a book out here by Lucasfilm that is not factual, perpetuating a lie.
Well, I like the fact that they're trying to use the treatments they threw in the trash now, retroactively, to double down on why it was completely fine that they did what they did. And the fans are mad, but they shouldn't be, because George Lucas was going to do the same thing, but he wasn't.
Right. And I think this is all about pimping this book and pimping this narrative.
It's a narrative, yes.
It's the narrative. We're going to talk about how just a couple days ago, Comic Book Resources is talking about how problematic the expanded universe is.
Comic Book Resources were the ones who put the article up basically saying that the fans shouldn't be mad because George Lucas was going to kill Luke in Episode VIII too.
Yeah.
There is clearly a double down narrative in Disney's behalf here from CBR. Also, my next question is, expanded universe is a gatekeeping weapon because it's too vast, but Disney's doing the same thing but worse. At least Disney, at least they kept it kind of, continuity stayed the same.
Yeah.
Mostly.
I was just thinking, that's no moon, that's a gatekeeping weapon.
That's right.
It's a gatekeeping weapon. It was meant to keep out the fake fans. But now
Disney's doing the same damn thing.
They're doing the same thing. It's more convoluted now than it was before.
We're going to talk about that, right? I beat you to it.
Yeah, we are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how they're going to completely redefine the Force with the High Republic. We knew this was coming. It doesn't matter how they pretty it up. You're putting lipstick on a pig.
Right.
A Force pig. Is there such a thing as a Force pig?
Gamorrean guard.
A Gamorrean guard. A Gamorrean guard Jedi. It's a lipstick on a Force pig. So first let's talk about this non-truth. It's an untruth.
Yes.
It's an untruth.
Apparently, in their new book that they're promoting, which is funny because it's listed as one of the #1 sellers on Amazon, but it has 0 reviews. None. Okay?
That is curious.
It's a little curious. I guess this is Pablo Hidalgo's book, Star Wars Fascinating Facts. And apparently, according to CBR and other outlets that keep pushing this narrative, George Lucas intended to kill Luke Skywalker in his treatments, which I think everybody already kind of knew that.
Right.
That wasn't a surprise. But it was supposed to be, according to them, in Episode VIII, which is what they did in The Last Jedi. And they don't understand why the Star Wars fandom is so pissed about it, because that's exactly what George Lucas was going to do, except it wasn't, because George Lucas wasn't going to fundamentally ruin the whole character of Luke Skywalker. Translation:
man, babies, you're wrong. We did what George wanted, even though we threw his scripts in the trash. We did what he wanted.
Right.
We did what George wanted.
So they're now the scripts and the treatments they threw away and caused George Lucas to call Disney white slavers and Bob Iger to have to write a whole thing about it in his book to cover it. Now they're going to pull those out of the trash and use them to double down on why they were right with their Disney sequel trilogy when they fundamentally don't understand Star Wars.
And this is coming from Pablo Hidalgo, who would argue with anyone who said he doesn't fundamentally understand Star Wars because he fancies himself the Star Wars gatekeeper.
Well, as soon as you have Lucasfilm Story Group written on your name, I don't listen to anything you say.
Yeah, so he published this book, and here's the thing, I do remember this. Now, this is coming from Mark Hamill, but he said that Luke didn't die until the end of 9. After he trained Leia, Hamill said, which is another thread that was never played upon in The Last Jedi. So this is just damage control.
Yes.
They're trying to, since this is an official Lucasfilm book, Disney is going to use their officialness to retcon
reality.
To bitch slap the fandom once again and make you pay for it.
Right. They're going to retcon reality, and now they're going to use George Lucas's treatment that they gave the treatment to after the fact come back and say, oh, no, it's fine because all you're saying because George Lucas wouldn't have done that. Well, he would have. So we just did what he was going to do. No, you didn't. And then beyond that, that's what people are pissed about. People aren't mad that Luke died. They're mad that they made him a punk ass bitch who was nothing like Luke Skywalker from the classic trilogy. They had to belittle classic characters to raise up their characters because their characters weren't good enough on their own. And that Disney's telling us that by the way they treated other characters in the classic movies.
Disney's telling us that by the way they treat the fans, by the way they treat the expanded universe, which we're going to talk about that too. The expanded universe, much of it had George Lucas's blessing. Obviously, he had to greenlight stuff that went forward. So it's very interesting to see that Disney is finding themselves in essentially the same spot that Star Wars was in when they bought it, which is, there was some bad feelings about the prequels. People felt that maybe the expanded universe was gatekeeping new fans.
We'll get to that in a minute. But here's my thing that got me too, is that Disney doesn't understand Star Wars. At the end of the day, what they're trying to do, and we're going to talk about that more too with the whether changing the Force, is Disney's not trying to make stories that fit into the franchise and to the universe. They're trying to make the universe and the franchise fit to their stories, and there's a difference. And now when you have The Mandalorian, which they're trying to make it fit and feel like Star Wars, people like it. When you're trying to just do things like The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, and you're trying to take your characters and make them fit, or make the world revolve around them, and change for them, people don't like that. They want it to fit into what they know. That's the issue. And Disney does not understand that. They think they can just make whatever the hell they want to up, and everything has to change to fit them. And that's what they're doing wrong.
Well, they would argue that they own it now, so they can do with it.
They can argue that could be their argument. Doesn't mean they're right.
No.
They want to know why there's a problem. The reason I won't listen to the stupid Lucasfilm story group says is because a lot of the shit and the issues have been from the Lucasfilm story group.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it like it is. And you know what? If all you had to take to be in a Lucasfilm story group was some knowledge of Star Wars, hell, I read most of the books. Oh, I mean, the expanded universe, that was gatekeeping.
I think that we need to retcon the Lucasfilm story group and call them the Kathleen Kennedy best friend fanfic squad.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
That's basically what it is. It's Kathleen Kennedy and a bunch of fanfic writers.
Basically,
making them not familiar with Star Wars.
That they think that they're superior because they think that they have the power, and you know what? You have like Favreau and Filoni who also have the power, and they know that yes, they have the power to make changes, but they know that what's going to work with people is what's going to feel authentic. That's the difference. Where the story group just thinks, well, I'm the boss now, bitch. I will do what I want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just feminism, inclusion, I'm like, which is fine as long as it fits. Mara Jade, well, she kicked all your strong female characters' asses, Well,
if they think they can get some points, they'll bring Mara Jade back.
They're going to ruin her.
They'll absolutely ruin her.
Look at the last line of my article. Here's my article right here. Or go to the very last line. Right, well, next to last line, up to it.
Don't ruin Mara Jade.
That was next to last line, because I did put the book thing so you could look at it if you wanted to.
Don't ruin Mara Jade. But that's what they're going to do. They'll bring her back. She won't have any relation to Luke Skywalker at all. She'll just be a kick-ass female bestest Jedi ever. And just so they can get her out there and then also try to double dip on the old fam. Like, they hate the expanded universe, but they keep strip mining.
I was going to say that. If it's a gatekeeping whatever, why the hell do you keep pulling characters from it and trying to bring people back? Because they don't want your characters. What's that tell you?
Even bringing Palpatine back as a clone, literally one of the first storylines in the expanded universe was bringing Palpatine back as a clone for a story group that seemingly hates the expanded universe as much as they do. Why do they keep going back to that well?
Because they want to be the expanded universe, but they want to pick and choose what they want out of it. They're doing the exact same thing. I'm going to tell you right now, the story group is doing the exact same damn thing they're mad about.
Yeah, but it's their fanfic.
Exactly.
It's their, and that's kind of like we see this with comic books, we see it with animation, we see people come in to establish franchises, throw everything out because it's too hard. It's too hard to keep up with years and years of lore. We'd rather just start over and do it our way. Instead
of doing our homework. But
right.
Then, what's your answer? To make up years and years of lore, people are going to have to read, play, etc. You're doing the exact same damn thing you said was bad because it was a gatekeeping weapon. Okay, go ahead and cover this. I haven't read it yet.
A gatekeeping weapon.
I haven't read it yet. Yeah.
You haven't read it yet?
I haven't had enough coffee or caffeine yet either. Go ahead.
Okay, so this right out of the gate starts like a typical CBR article. The Star Wars fandom grows increasingly toxic over the years. It sounds like a text scroll. Episode 10, the gatekeeping weapon. The Star Wars fandom grows increasingly toxic over the years, and the divide between Legends canon and Disney doesn't help. It's a gatekeeping weapon.
But what side's the right one? Disney, according to them.
Whichever side Disney owns. Now they're going to pull in the High Republic and all that junk in here. It was a ripe environment for gatekeeping to breed because they had all these, spin-offs and whatever. And look, it was kind of hard to keep up with, but they had, as I remember, they had various levels of canon. They had the George Lucas canon, which was anything that was in the movies was George Lucas. And then they kind of had I forget what the initials were, but they had the secondary canon, which was it's basically as good as George Lucas. And that would be the Clone Wars cartoon, the Zahn trilogy, that stuff.
He was involved and said, yes.
He was more
I agree with
involved
this, yes.
And then they had all the spin-off comics and stuff. And I can't expect George Lucas to sit down and read every damn comic book that came out every month.
Well, back in the day, Marvel did some stuff, or was it Dark Horse? Dark Horse did some stuff that was a little, what? So, I mean, that happened too.
So here's what happened. They talked about how complicated the expanded universe was. And it actually grew out of tabletop gaming, by the way. That's where they started this expanded universe. Confining Legends to its own separate canon was viewed as an unforgivable attack against true fans, many of whom hated the sequel trilogy, creators and moviegoers who like the Disney
Wait
canon.
a minute. They did that. They got rid of Legends before the Disney trilogy came out.
Yes, they did.
So you can't say that, CBR. It's an unforgivable attack against the true fans who hated the sequel trilogy. They did that before the sequel trilogy came out.
They basically wanted to
You don't even have your timeline straight.
They wanted to wipe the slate clean so Mickey could come in and Mickey-fy Star Wars. It was a ripe environment for gatekeeping to breed, and even now the Legends continuity serves as some kind of litmus test of whether or not a fan is real or true. If someone simply prefers the Disney canon, they deserve no such vitriol, but go to any online Star Wars discussion and the preference for Legends continuity among their fans will say otherwise. This divide between Disney canon fans and Legends diehards has rendered a very toxic and unwelcoming environment for the Star Wars fan base.
Translation, I like the Disney movies because I kiss their ass because they give us, tickets and stuff. So if you don't like the Legends, or you never read them because you were a little kid then, you're just now saying you're a Star Wars fan, that you're just toxic and a gatekeeper. I have not yet seen anybody do that. Have you?
No.
Mostly just, but I don't like the Disney movies. I like the Disney movies.
Yeah, and a lot of people, look, I mean, this is where it gets confusing anyway, is a lot of people aren't invested in the extra content. Now, the problem with Disney's expanded universe, or Disney canon, whatever the hell they're going to call it, the Mickey canon, is that Disney, because they're always thinking about upselling people,
right?
They almost make it mandatory that just to understand the damn movies, you have to go buy books, you have to go buy tie-in comics, you have to go buy video games, and all this other horse shit that
you have to go play Fortnite.
You have to go play Fortnite to get the intro of Palpatine in episode 9.
Right.
What the hell?
Let me ask you this. Which one's the convoluted, harder to follow, story? At least with the Star Wars, like you said, it was if you watched the movies, that was great. If you wanted to read the extra stuff, that was great. You didn't have to do one to understand the other. The new stuff, yes, the High Republic's coming in. If you want to understand what the hell's going on, you're going to have to buy their books. They keep doing this stupid tie-in. If you want a backstory of what actually happened with Palpatine, you have to buy this book. If you want to understand where this character came from, you have to buy that book. They're making you pay to find out. And a lot of times they cancel each other out. They had flipping Palpatine impregnating Shmi with force rape. I mean, so it's they undo their own stories, and you don't even know what's canon and what's not in their own stuff. I'm but no, the expanded universe, or I'm sorry, what they call them, the Legends or whatever, that's the problem. That was the gate-kept thing. That's, basically what it sounds like to me is that the author wasn't up on that stuff. So somebody might have said, all you know is the new Disney movies, you aren't familiar with all that stuff, and maybe they got nasty with them for it or whatever. So now that's a gatekeeping weapon. But Disney is doing the exact same thing, and I'd say they're doing it 10 times worse. I would say worse than what the original EU was.
It is worse because, like I said, it's not out of a desire to tell good stories. In Disney's case, it's pure marketing. It's a marketing
We've seen the whiteboard, guys.
Yeah, they're all about making you buy this extra content just to understand what the fuck is going on in the movie that you paid $10 to go see. Rise of Skywalker had so many plot holes they had to explain with books. Most people aren't going to care, and that's people were completely confused too. We went to go see Solo in the theater, And, of course, Darth Maul shows up at the end. People are confused because a lot of people don't read the extra stuff.
Right.
They watch the movies and that's it. And if you've never
They don't watch the extra shows sometimes and stuff.
Yeah, if you're not watching Clone Wars and Rebels, you're not going to know that Darth Maul came back. And for a lot of people, the cartoons were kind of iffy if they were canon or not. It was like you could take it or leave it. They were cool, but it wasn't really necessary. And frankly, I'm going to be honest. Clone Wars, there are parts of Clone Wars that directly contradicts the movies.
Right.
But people love it, and that's fine. But it was always extra. But Disney is making those extras. It's basically they're taking a page from EA, and they're making the DLC damn near mandatory.
Right. But then they're saying that everything else was gatekeeping, and it did it worse.
Yeah.
Yes. No. Disney is doing it 100 times worse than the expanded universe did. And the expanded universe, you have to remember too, a lot of it came at a time when there was no Star Wars anything. Like the majority of it rebooted Star Wars, kept it going until they got around to making more movies. So a lot of the stuff happened in years in between things where we had nothing. So it wasn't like it was competing against movies. They're directly competing against themselves for all this new shit they're putting out.
Yeah, and this right here, look, this kind of gets me too, because I hear this argument all the time with comics. I hear it all the time with, like Doctor Who and Star Trek and all that. And you basically have, we talked about the fair weather fans. And I don't think anybody, and I'm gonna say it, nobody should be kept out of a fandom. But I don't think you can really claim to be a fan of something and come into it and be like, well, I'm not even gonna do basic due diligence. I'm going to watch a couple episodes of whatever show. Now, all of a sudden, I'm a super fan. I know everything, whatever. And you might be a fan of it. You might be interested in it. But it does feel like a lot of people come in. They want to work on these properties that have long histories, and they don't want to do the work. Like, if you're getting paid to actually work on Star Wars or Star Trek or Doctor Who or whatever, you would think, for the amount of money they're giving you, you could actually sit your ass down and do some research, or if you don't know, call somebody who does know to get your answers. Now, the difference with like Doctor Who, when they brought Doctor Who back, they didn't obliterate the years and years and years of canon.
Well, it just did.
Well, they just no. What I'm saying is, when they first brought it back, they kind of put the Doctor in a different place where the Time Lords were all gone and whatever, and they focused on just we're reintroducing you to the Doctor. We know that all this stuff happened. We might or might not reference it. They didn't even have the Daleks really show up. First, if I remember, I don't even think the Daleks were in the first season properly. They didn't have a proper episode.
I don't remember. It's been a while since I saw it.
But they were trying to kind of like bring new people into it without saddling them with canon. And then as the show progressed, they started referencing older episodes and bringing older villains back and having cameos by Sarah Jane and all this kind of stuff. And they did it in an organic way. Star Wars could do the same thing. But the problem is, they wanted to tell their story of what happened to Luke, Leia, and Han after the original trilogy.
Well, back to this comment too. I want to talk about this in general. Fandom should be an opportunity to celebrate common interests, not battlegrounds. Pretty much more authority one person has than another. You mean like She-Ra, when they rebooted it and basically told all the old fans who didn't like certain aspects that they immediately were something wrong with them and they were problematic? It was those people who were attacking the old fans, not the other way around. The other people attacked back because they got sick of it.
Yeah.
But right off the bat, they were basically called names and everything else. So, I agree you should be welcoming, but a lot of the people who aren't welcoming are the media.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people associate it. They're the ones calling by incels who don't agree with them. They're going to go kiss who's ever asked their bread's buttered by. And let me tell you, Disney and Lucasfilm are buttering their bread, not the fandom.
So let's go back to this other video we did a couple days ago talking about fake geeks. And I think the media is overrun with fake geeks. They don't want to do their due diligence. So instead of, actually, I guess, taking the time to learn the rules in the club, in the clubhouse, they just boot everybody else out.
And make up new ones.
And make up a new one.
And if you don't like it, you're an ist or a phobe. But, but they don't like that people have authority over another person in fandoms. But the media constantly sits upon their pedestal and tells everybody else how they're the authority on fandom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, pot or kettle there.
It's like, we're the authority on fandom, even though we don't know what we're talking about 90% of the time.
And you're all toxic because you didn't like that. We just changed everything about it. That was everything you loved and everything that made it what it was. But it still has the same name. So you're just an ist and a phobe if you don't agree.
Yeah.
CBR says.
Especially when it comes to Star Wars. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Just the lengths that the media goes to portray Disney Star Wars in the best possible light and demonize the fans. Like, this is getting old. Guys, this is getting really fucking old. Because at this point, Disney has nobody else but themselves to blame for the lack of interest in Star Wars, and you white knighting for them isn't going to bring the fandom back. A lot of people, I mean, we still, to this day, have not watched The Rise of Skywalker.
Every time we think about it, we're just like, nope, can't get enough give a shit to look at it.
I don't have any, and I'll tell you the truth, I am so disgusted by Disney's handling of the sequel trilogy that I don't have any desire to watch it. Now, we have watched The Mandalorian. I watched it reluctantly. I wasn't even going to watch The Mandalorian because I was so burnt on the sequel trilogy. Geeky talked me into it. We watched it. We liked it. I still think they're going to ruin it. Because
yeah, I'm worried about that.
That is Disney. They ruin everything they touch.
They just keep doing this, and they could have gone a long way if right away they said, you know what, look, we made a mistake, we're sorry, we were trying so hard to make it fit our narrative and our vision that we forgot that we have to make it fit within inside the universe to the old fans. They could have done some things differently. They could have apologized. They could have tried harder to make it work. Mandalorian is like the only thing they have going on that most fans agree on, and I guarantee they're going to ruin that. They're going to, because Disney cannot stop touching it.
Yep. So speaking of touching it, they're going to finger the Force.
Yeah, I saw this.
This is the panel at New York Comic Con. Actually got
They had several panels.
Yeah, some views. New York Comic Con in general was kind of a bust because, again, going back to that fake geek thing, fans are getting burnt out on.
They kept pushing Disney Star Wars at New York Comic Con.
Yeah, of course they did. But yeah, apparently they're going to redefine how the Force is perceived. They're going to rewrite the rules. It's like, do you remember the midichlorian debacle? Mm-hmm. Yeah, just imagine that time.
But at least the midichlorian thing was Lucas's thing.
That was at least Lucas's quasi-scientific explanation for it. But the creative director, Michael Siglain, says the Force is actually perceived differently by different Jedi. So they all have their own religion. I
think like Lucas did it because he wanted to give a real reason why some people had it and some people didn't.
Yeah.
And now they're basically like, anybody can be a hero and have the Force. It depends on how you sense it. And then they brought up in this article, which I thought was a good point too, that Luke cut himself off from the Force. And he said, well, if the Force is through everything and it permeates everything, and there's no way you can cut yourself off from it.
Yeah. So the main character, oh my God. Is this more indication that they're going to bring Brie Larson? Because the main character, Avar Kriss, right? Mm-hmm. The one that everybody keeps thinking is going to be Brie Larson. She perceives the Force as music. Well, Brie Larson is in Banshees and Scott Pilgrim. Mm-hmm. She perceives the Force as music. She calls it the Song of the Force. And so for her, all the different Jedi have their own tones and instruments. And it all comes together into this great symphony of dissonance and assonance.
There's some ass for sure.
All of these beautiful things she's able to perceive the way the Force connects all things as music. The Force is obviously an energy field that binds and connects all things, as Yoda describes it. But that's just Yoda's perception of it.
Right.
This is not going to go well.
Mm-mm. They're going to. We couldn't make it work to our advantage the first time. So now we're going to double down and change it more.
So the Wookiees see it as a forest for the trees.
I mean, I get the idea. I get the idea that different types of Star Wars characters, depending on where they're from and what they are, would see it differently. I get that. They might just. It's like air. You have all different, groups throughout history. They all know what it is in their own way. They all describe it a different way, but they all are talking about the same thing. I get that. And to that, I understand. I think it's true. What I have a problem with is they're going to change what things are and where it comes from, just, because they can. That I have a problem with. Putting it in a way that different places would think of it in different ways and relate to it in different ways, that makes sense. That happens historically. An eclipse happened and there's a bazillion different stories about what the eclipse is. Oh, it's the gods. Oh, it's, whatever. But it's all talking about the eclipse. I get that. But what I have a problem with is, now it's like, well, everybody can just have it because, they can.
Yeah. I'm just, thinking that are they trying to like reconcile the Force to religion? Like this is how everybody sees God. If the Force is God.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think the High Republic is going to be a cluster. You want to talk about ditching the EU? People were very upset that the Knights of the Old Republic's basically toast at this point, and this is what we get. I don't know how I don't think it's going to go well.
No.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I think the whole There's hot Yoda.
Still,
He's not
looks like
hot enough.
Samuel L. Jackson and Yoda had a
does.
kid.
It does. Well, that's just it. That's why Yoda and Mace Windu were so close.
That's right.
They had a bromance.
Apparently.
The energy field bound them together at one point, and we got this guy. I don't know. His name's Eric. I don't know.
Okay.
Eric the Jedi. Hot
He's not
Yoda. Chad. Oh my God. Yeah. So they got hot Yoda here. I don't know, guys. But then, on top of all this, where it really counts, the merchandising.
Yep, that's just what I'm talking about.
Where it really counts, Disney always comes back to
the classics.
The classic trilogy, the original trilogy, because that's what actually sells. Even today, we got an Amazon wish book. It's like a Sears wish book.
Yes, I was very excited about that.
And it was all Baby Yoda stuff in classic trilogy.
Yep.
So they know. Disney knows. They don't want to admit it. Kathleen Kennedy doesn't want to admit it. But the original trilogy is timeless, and what they created is basically a direct-to-DVD seeker
Pretty much.
Will be forgotten.
A lot of them.
Forgotten shortly.
But it's the expanded universe that is the gatekeeper of all of Star Wars.
Right.
The one that they deleted before they started their Star Wars. That is the gatekeeping weapon. Because someone probably used it against this person, and that's why.
Probably, I went to a Star Wars board, and I know I'd never watched Star Wars before, but they were asking me if I ever read any Dark Horse comics, and I'm like, oh my God, no. No, I don't read comic books. I work for Comic Book Resources, but I don't read comic books.
No, but I mean, it just
Ew.
They're so uptight and upset about this one point. It makes me think that they were the victim of the one point, and that's what they're pissed about. Even though I got all the time because I didn't like the Disney movies, I got told that I was not a Star Wars fan. I did not understand Star Wars. Who do I think I am? I'm not a real fan. Only real fans like this. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm totally not a real fan, and I have no cred whatsoever. You're right. You figured me out.
Yeah, I consider the Disney Star Wars, I consider it Apocrypha. I consider all of it Apocrypha. I don't think any of it, save for maybe possibly The Mandalorian, because George Lucas supposedly gave him some notes on it. But the fact that they tossed out George Lucas's...
Oh, but they're bringing it back now.
Yeah, they're going to use George now. But the fact that they tossed it out, and it's well documented that they tossed it out, they want to use George now. The fact that they tossed it out means it's not canon.
No, they're going to retcon. They're going to retcon reality.
They're going to retcon reality.
And incorrectly too, apparently.
Yeah, so there we go. That might be the title of the video. Lucasfilm retcons reality.
There you go.
And doubles down on this nonsense that I don't even care. Star Wars actually makes me kind of sick to my stomach anymore, because it was I was a huge fan of Star Wars for years, decades, and I just don't care.
I care more than you, but I care still about the classics.
Yeah, I don't care about any of the Disney shit. I see the Disney stuff. I see the new Stormtroopers. I see Kylo Ren. I'm like, don't care. It's not Star Wars.
Whatever you do not. And I'm going to tell you this as a warning, Disney, because there are a lot of people who are going to be pissed if you do. Do not ruin Mara Jade. Do not. Just don't go there.
Oh, they're going to do it just to troll you. Don't
go there, because, they didn't control me. They have no idea what kind of shitstorm they're in for if they ruin Mara Jade. And I'm not talking about just me.
Yeah, that's not going to go well. So we're going to wrap this one up.
Right.
Okay, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.